Hey, this is Troy from Planet 76. We've got some really good Sixers-focused content coming your way today. Make sure you subscribe to the pod so you can be in the know when we release new content. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, to Planet 76, episode 106.
Correct.
That's right. That's right. Got it right. Media Day was today. Sixers Media Day was today. Lots to break down. We're going to get into that. But make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram. We're going to get things back rolling. Troy and I talked about it, but this was a really slow offseason, so not a whole lot to discuss. But now that the team is back, now that things are looking, to start back up again, we're going to have a lot more content. We're going to have a lot more discussion. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Troy, what do you got anything to start us off here with? Troy always does great work with the outline. He always makes an outline for the episode. Always great work. Always have things like our little discussion, questions, and everything. So shout out to Troy.
Yeah, man.
I'll give him the floor. I'll stop rambling and give him the floor.
No, man. I just know if I didn't write a few things down, would be all over the place. So, Media Day, I don't even know. It's like when you go from winter into springtime. Like Media Day, you end summer. It's early October. It's just a breath of fresh air. You smell the roses, and I feel like everybody's unbeaten. Everybody's healthy. Like every team. It doesn't matter if you were watching Charlotte Hornets, Sixers, Trailblazers Media Days. Like everybody's walking in there confident, feeling happy, fresh slate. It's just a kind of a cool day, and a lot obviously has transpired over the last several days with the Sixers and not with the Sixers. A lot that could have an impact on the Sixers based on what other teams have done in the Eastern Conference. So we'll talk about some of those things and then just get into some Media Day things. We have some quotes from some of the guys on Media Day. But before we step right into Media Day itself, so, gosh, what's it been? A week or two since the Sixers signed Kelly Oubre Jr. to a one-year deal. He's been around the league. I think this might be his fifth team. He's still, 27, 28 years old. For the aforementioned Charlotte Hornets team, he averaged 20 points a game last year. I mean, if you're averaging 20 in the NBA, I don't care what team you're on. That's pretty good. And just your thoughts on that acquisition.
I like it. Again, a 1 year, I believe, vet minimum. I'm not exactly sure if it's vet minimum, but it's a 1 year deal. It's great. I think he's gonna start. Not start. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Pretend I didn't say that. I think he's going to be the start. Why do I keep saying start? I think he's going to be our backup 3/4, depending on the lineup. He brings a lot of flexibility, so he could play the 3 or the 4. He could even play the 2 in some bigger lineups, depending on who's next to him. But I like it. I think he brings, like I said, some flexibility, very athletic. He's a pretty good scorer. He is going to fit nicely next to Jrue and Tyrese Maxey. He's going to get some open looks. He's going to be able to run the floor a little bit because there's going to be a lot of open space. I'm excited. I think he brings an element. He's not necessarily a young player. He's definitely younger still. Well, he's 27. Never mind. But still, he's got that athleticism, that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? That kind of like physical. I don't know how to phrase it, but he's got that athleticism and kind of like springiness. The Sixers don't really have, except for Maxey, but it's different because it's a different type of athleticism with Maxey. So I like the signing a lot. Very low risk signing, and I think it's gonna work out pretty well.
I think as far as late September acquisitions go, It's hard to
Right.
find a better one, than a guy who averaged 20 points a game the season before. So is he going to
Right.
come here and average 20? Absolutely not. We know that's not going to happen. But
No.
hopefully he can be as productive with the shots that he does get on the offensive end. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm all for it. And then big news around the NBA. I mean, big news. Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks. Damian Lillard wanted to go to Miami. The talk was Miami for months. Obviously, they didn't have enough, weren't willing to give enough to get him. But then, I don't know how much it was on your radar or anyone's radar, but to me, it's kind of out of nowhere. Milwaukee steps up. You see the notification, and you're like, wait, what? So they're able to keep. To me, the big story there is it was a 3-team deal, Phoenix and Portland. But the fact that they were able to keep Chris Middleton is a huge thing. And then they did lose Jrue Holiday, who was in Portland for a couple days before being shipped off to Boston, which was, we saw coming in the sense that he wasn't going to be staying in Portland. Sixers fans were interested in him. We'll talk about him too. But Damian Lillard to Milwaukee. Actually, let's just do them both. Damian to Milwaukee, Jrue Holiday to Boston. Celtics in that lost Robert Williams III, Brogdon, and 2 future first-round picks. That's quite a bit. I think maybe you or some other Sixers page I follow said that, with that price, it makes sense why the Sixers weren't able to get him because they don't have something to offer like that. And so what's the impact? Obviously, as Sixers fans, as Sixers podcast, what's the impact that these moves have on two obviously already talented teams in the Eastern Conference? You team up Damian Lillard with Giannis, that's incredibly scary. And now Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Jrue Holiday joins them. So, what's the impact that you see? I mean, who's the other team in the East? It's the Sixers, the Heat. There's some other teams, but those are the 4 over the last number of years. So what's the impact there?
Well, I think it solidifies Boston and Milwaukee as 1 and 2 in the East. You could have a whole conversation about who's 1, who's 2. It doesn't matter. They're both teams have cemented themselves as the 2 best teams, the 2 teams to beat in the Eastern Conference. With the Sixers, a not so. Well, I guess kind of distant third, in my opinion. And
kind of distant third. I like that wording.
Talk about that more in the weeks and episodes to come. But it solidifies them as the 1 and 2 in the East. Again, when it is related to the Sixers, they weren't getting either of those guys. Unfortunately, the Sixers, 1, did not have enough, and 2, just didn't seem to garner enough interest from the Celtics or the Blazers when it comes to Jrue Holiday the Blazers, I guess, in general, because the Blazers had Dame and Jrue Holiday, at separate times, obviously. But I guess they just didn't garner enough interest from the Blazers when it came to Dame and Jrue Holiday, mostly because now we see what the Blazers actually got for Dame and, in turn, Jrue Holiday. And the Sixers, like you said earlier, could not match that. Just not even remotely close to enough trades and players and future assets to actually land even Jrue Holiday. I mean, Rob Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, and 2 first-round picks, and I believe 2 swaps. Mm-hmm. The Sixers, I just don't think they had that, and I don't think the Blazers had any interest in James Harden.
Right.
Which, again, we can get into that a little bit if you want, but they didn't seem to have any interest in James Harden. I don't think I blame them, to be honest, especially because they're trying to rebuild, and James Harden is not a player you trade for if that's your direction.
Yeah. Do you think that the Celtics gave up too much? Like just a simple yes, no?
No.
Okay.
No. Mostly because of Brogdon and Williams' injury history. I think Williams was relatively healthy last year. He did miss some time in the playoffs. Not this past year, but the year before. And he missed a few games this past year. Brogdon also missed some time this year, and both aren't particularly. I think Rob Williams is like 23. How old is he? 25. He's even older than I thought. I imagine though they ship both because even though both aren't young, wow, Malcolm Brogdon's 30. Oh my gosh, even though both aren't particularly young assets, I think they're still really valuable around the league.
Yeah.
Because of what they can do and the way they can fit on certain teams. Whereas you can't really say that for Harden. But not only that, he's also older than both of those guys and even more injury prone than both of those guys. So not something you want to deal with if you're the Blazers because you still want, in theory, to be able to maybe trade the things you got from Jrue Holiday because again, rebuilding is the goal.
Right.
You don't necessarily want a 30-year-old and 25-year-old injury-prone players on your team, especially if you can trade them and especially if they are valuable among the rest of the league, which I think they are. So,
right. Yeah, you saw the
I don't think they gave
Blazers rebuild kind of begin when CJ McCollum left, and then when you get rid of Damian Lillard for what they got rid of him for. So they are in prime rebuilding spot. They did give up a lot. You know what I mean? But Jrue. We both are fans of Jrue Holiday, and it's going to be weird. I'm not going to like watching him play for the Boston Celtics at all. That's going to be kind of odd. But we'll see. I'm happy as a Sixers fan to know that the Celtics got Jrue Holiday, but they did have to give up two guys that are important to the team that they already had last year that we saw in the playoffs. So
right.
Jrue Holiday's very good, so not happy that he's in Boston. I'll just say that. But there's definitely an impact. I do think that on paper, how can you not love the Milwaukee Bucks in the East? How can you not? Damian Lillard, Giannis, they're able to keep Brook Lopez, who's the Brooklyn Nets all-time leading scorer. This is, and they have Chris Middleton. So, they got rid of some other guys, but that's a scary team. I think they got to be the favorites in the East on paper. And,
100%.
So, Media Day madness. All right, so as expected, James Harden was a no-show. But as I mentioned a moment ago, the team seems loose and eager to get things started, like you said as well. So, it's also a different feeling that we have this year because of Nick Nurse being at the helm. I think that just creates some energy, some much-needed energy, and just a different kind of feeling around the team as we head into the year. The season starts in just over 3 weeks, so we are here, my friend. All right.
Yes, we are.
One thing I'll say, I don't know, I don't again, like I said earlier, when you turn the calendar to October and Media Day's underway and it's all smiles and you start to get a little, as we titled our last episode, cautiously optimistic. I am the one player I'm just so excited for, especially if he's given the opportunity with Harden not being there, is Tyrese Maxey. I think he is poised for another major jump in production, and you just love the kid. He's awesome, and so I'm excited to see what he's going to do this year. Anything in particular, and then I'll read some of these quotes from Media Day. Anything in particular jump out from today's events?
No, I think I made a post about it earlier today, but I think it seems most of the team, if not the entire team, are just ready to play. I think from what I saw from Embiid, Maxey, Tucker, even Oubre, like we were talking about, it just seems like they're ready to play. Embiid specifically said something along the lines of, I'm going to just play whenever I'm on the court. I know we have a chance.
Right.
Maxey said, Maxey, Tucker, he said he's going to show up. He's friends with Harden. He respects Harden and everything, but he also wants to play. Oubre was excited to be a part of a team that is winning, he said, and, there's definitely there's definitely a bit of 50-50 on that, and, that's another story for another day. I'm excited, and, what else did I want? Danny Green is back.
Danny Green.
Obviously, we talked about that. He said he has some unfinished business, which I agree with. That's a huge reason why I was excited that the Sixers actually got him, because he tore his, I guess it was ACL or Achilles or something.
ACL, yeah.
One of those injuries. He went out. Kind of sad. I kind of felt bad actually for him.
Yeah.
But luckily, he has a chance to guess, redeem himself. But he doesn't really have to redeem himself, though, because it's not like he played poorly. It's just his time with the Sixers got cut short, in my opinion. And I think he's very excited as well. And overall, I mean, I just Paul Reed just cut me off. Just cut me off.
No, it's good. It's good. To me, it's still Maxey. Like, I'm just really excited because.
Oh yeah, it's definitely Maxey.
I mean, what's your? I don't even know, man. Like, to put you on the spot, like, what's
Sure.
What's the ceiling for him? Can he be an all-star? Like, this year, no Harden, the team as is, what's Maxey going to do? What do you envision this season being like for him? However you want to take that.
It's going to be. I was wrong last year because I said to everyone and myself, I don't know if Maxey is going to take that big of a leap this year because he took a big leap from year 1 to 2.
Right.
I don't know what year 2 to 3 is going to look like. Don't expect anything major. I was very wrong. He took another major leap last year. Now, would I be shocked if he does that again this year? No. Mostly because he has time under his belt in the league. He has shown that he's been able to take major leaps in his game from year 1 to 2, 2 to 3. And he has a coach alongside him who's going to put him in those situations to capitalize on that potential growth. Because, yeah, Doc Rivers, played a role because he gave Maxey minutes. But Nick Nurse sees Maxey for what he is. And Nick Nurse Tyrese Maxey appears to be a big focal point of what Nick Nurse wants to do with his team. And that's huge because not that Maxey is like your franchise guy or anything, but realizing how important he can be for the success of your team from a coaching standpoint is huge. Because like I said a couple minutes ago, you're going to give him more opportunities to not only do what he does best, but also more opportunities to do more things and get better at more things. And Nick Nurse already said he's going to put the ball in Tyrese Maxey's hands more this year, which is huge. Because not only is it going to be helpful for him, but it's going to be helpful for his teammates too, because it's going to be one more guy the defense has to continuously keep their attention on, which is going to open up the floor for others. And it happened last year, obviously, because Maxey was great last year. We know this. But I think this year is a huge year of potential growth for Maxey in a lot of ways. And I think this offseason he talked about working with him and Joel Embiid had the same trainer, Drew Hanlon. He talked about putting in some work with Drew Hanlon. He did a lot of 3-on-3 and 4-on-4 over the summer, which was huge. Just working on just smaller things, like in-game situational things is what he said today. So just like Maxey and the little things, I think, is going to be... He already has his base. Great scorer, great off the dribble, shooting, all that stuff. But now he's really got to dial in on some of those things. The ball in his hands, getting teammates involved. The ball in his hands, continuing to get better at getting downhill to the rim. Those things are going to be huge. And I could talk for 20 minutes, really, about that.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. It really is. And that's one of the things, we'll talk about this in another episode, that's one of the things that I'm really, really excited about. Troy already said it. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, feel free. But I'm just really excited for Maxey this year.
Yeah, he's just got so much potential. We've seen it. We've seen his growth. We've seen his development. We've seen him taking areas that were weaker in his game and making them strengths. And then, Nick Nurse, to something you just said, was quoted today saying that, Maxey is going to have the ball in his hands a lot more, obviously, without James Harden. He's going to have reps to learn how to create for himself and for others. So, that's some, as far as creating for others, we know he's capable, but he hasn't done it. He hasn't been the guy to do that on this team. And by the looks of it, he will be the guy to do that in a lot of games this year, creating for himself and others. He's going to have the ball a ton. I almost think that the whole James Harden situation being very public for a very long time and James Harden being adamant about not suiting up for this team almost helps a guy like Tyrese Maxey mentally, versus, out of nowhere, James Harden just doesn't show up on opening night because he doesn't want to play. Like, Maxey's been prepared for the last few months because he kind of knows what's happening. He knows he's going to be the guy. And, like you said, he's been training accordingly and preparing for that. So I think it's, a glass half full kind of guy. It's almost like the last few months have been preparing him because he knows what he's walking into rather than it just being out of nowhere, out of the blue on him. So a couple other quotes I wanted to share. So Kelly Oubre, you touched on that. Happy to finally be on a team that's competing for something. D'Anthony Melton on the James Harden situation said, for us, we're just worried about whoever is putting on a 76ers uniform. For us, we're ready to jump ball with anybody that's here. I think D'Anthony Melton is just another guy to watch this year. He's only 25, 26. Like, he hasn't even reached his full potential in the NBA yet. And to finally find, a role on the Sixers team last year, after being traded here, he's going to be asked to step up and do more, and I think he's more than capable. We saw flashes of it in the playoffs. We saw flashes of it in the regular season. Very good defensive player. So I'm very confident in D'Anthony Melton and his abilities. Joel Embiid said, with Harden it's unfortunate, but emphasized he just wants to win. And P.J. Tucker, it was kind of good to see, we know how close they are, but he said, aside from James, he's got his own thing going on, but the rest of us, we're come here and we're going to get ready for work. All right. So I like that from PJ Tucker to hear him say something like that. So, why don't we touch on real quick this team as currently constructed without James Harden. You touched on, where Kelly Oubre might fit on this team. So are we on the same page that the starting lineup is going to be Maxey, Melton, Harris, Tucker, Embiid? Yes. Okay.
That would
now,
be, again, assuming Harden's not playing.
Right.
Which, whatever. Who cares at this point?
Now, from a starting lineup, I mean, I like that starting lineup, given what it is. Now, that's not where my concerns are with this team. My concerns are the next unit. All right? So, now I don't know how – I mean, is Danny Green really going to recover from that injury? I mean, he played 8 games last year. He got, injured seriously the year before that. How much is he going to play on this team? Really don't know. But the pieces on the bench Furkan Korkmaz appeared in another media day after requesting a trade, so he is still on the team, by the way. So you got Patrick Beverley, Kelly Oubre, Daniel House, Paul Reed, Mo Bamba, Danny Green, Furkan, and Jaden Springer. What's your thoughts on those 8 names that I just gave you? There's no George Niang. There's no Shake Milton. There's Patrick Beverley, Oubre, House, Reed, Bamba, Green, Korkmaz, and Jaden Springer. Thoughts there?
Like you said, for what it is, I like this team. I like it. I don't love it.
Yeah.
And we can get into more of this as the couple weeks go on, but like a bench unit of assuming Beverly, Green, House, Reed, Bamba, like I'm okay with that. I like maybe, who would even be the 6th man? Paul Reed, I guess. I do like Reed as a 6th man. I have a lot of confidence in Mo Bamba. Patrick Beverley will grow on me. I would like to see House because House had his moments in the playoffs this past year. I don't know what he's going to do this year, but I do like House. Would like to see him get some time. Now, if I'm rating this squad out of 10, one being the worst, 10 obviously being the best, like you said, for what it is, I give it a 7. I
think that's fair.
Some people would see that. Some people would say that's generous. I think that's fair.
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
As I was just reading those names, the one obvious concern that I was able to come up with is, based off of what we know have known the Sixers to be and the guard play that we've had. So you take it back to last year. You start Tyrese Maxey, you start James Harden, and off the bench you have 2 capable scoring, creating their own shot guards in D'Anthony Melton and Shake Milton. and now you just don't have that. Kelly Oubre, he's a 3-4-2 sometimes, whatever, like you said earlier. But like, I am not like Patrick Beverley's not a guy, that's gonna go and get you a lot of points.
No.
My concerns is the ability for guards off the bench to score, because we've grown accustomed to seeing that as Sixers fans. I mean, we saw Shake Milton a couple years ago go for 30 off the bench against the Clippers, and he was very big a lot of times. And then DeAnthony Melton had a bunch of threes against the Celtics in the playoffs. Like, but if DeAnthony Melton's starting, and Patrick Beverley doesn't do it for me. So, like, how often is Nick Nurse going to be the mastermind and stagger the minutes where DeAnthony and Maxey will take turns running with the second unit and they won't play together that much other than starting? Like, how do you see that working?
Yeah, I mean, DeAnthony Melton starting definitely does gut your guard depth a lot, because last year, like you said, the Sixers had the luxury of bringing him off the bench, which I think DeAnthony Melton is... I kind of go back and forth, because we had scenarios last year where he was starting. I kind of think DeAnthony Melton is better off the bench, just because he can feel like he can thrive under a lower pressure environment off the bench. Whereas when he's starting, he's going to be starting, there's going to be a lot more pressure on him. And I'm not saying he can't perform. I just would prefer him in a situation where he's coming off the bench, running with the 7th, 8th guy off the bench, running the bench unit essentially. I think it's going to work. I just wonder, like you said, how is Nick Nurse going to stagger this? I would like to think that he runs Melton more with the second unit and keeps Maxey in a little longer. At the end of the day, though, I still having that kind of floor spacing in your starting lineup is going to be nice, because Embiid's not a floor spacer. Harris, we've kind of talked about Harris in pretty decent depth when it comes to his shooting. Tucker, it is what it is with Tucker. You need a guaranteed guy who can really space the floor, and I think Melton helps that out. Oh my gosh, helps out with that a lot.
Yeah. So I just did a quick look on Patrick Beverley over the last few years, and he, since the 2019-20 season,
he actually shoots pretty well.
Yeah, that too. Since the 2019-20 season, he has only come off the bench 9 times.
Really?
If my math is correct. And I would have guessed a lot more than that. So he started every game he played last year. He started, which I don't think I knew that. So with the Lakers and then with the Bulls, 45 games and 22 games. But in that time, he averaged about 3 assists. Which doesn't really... I mean, I guess we'll take 3 assists right now off the bench, because he's going to be going off the bench. But
right.
That's in almost 28 minutes a game, which will be less this year. So this is kind of interesting. I mean, this is the first time he's kind of taking a backup role, which is hard to believe. Good. Is that not hard to believe?
It is, especially because when you think of Patrick Beverley, you don't think of a guy who's always starting, who's starting point guard on any team. And I don't think it says really much about Patrick Beverley. I think it says more about the teams that he's played for. Like, a team with Patrick Beverley as your starting point guard, I don't know. Thankfully, it's not the Sixers, but I don't know. I think he's much better suited to be coming off the bench.
Right. So yeah, I know I'm harping on this, but I did not know this. So he's played in 593 games.
Oh my gosh.
505 of those games he has started, and so that's 88 games off the bench.
Yeah.
And 41 of those 88 games off the bench are in his rookie year, and then another 39 of those are in the 2018-19 season. Really? So every year but those 2, he's a starter in this league, and now he's not on this team. So that's something to watch. I just don't know how maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. I just don't know how confident I am in him, kind of leading a second unit that's composed of Oubre, House, Paul Reed, Mo Bamba, whatever it is. But that's just something to watch out for. So I know we'll get into this when we preview the season, but we keep using this wording, or I do, like, as this Sixers team is currently constructed.
Yes.
How do you feel? Or, like, I mean, I don't think we're sitting here thinking, as currently constructed, this team's going to compete for the championship. Like, so if it's not that, then where are we at?
Where are we at? That's a good question.
Is the ceiling a second-round exit?
I mean, depending on how it shapes out. Like, I feel like
I think, but if you take the playoffs, if you take the playoffs away, and you just say, I mean, on paper, this team can compete for the 3 or 4 seed.
Yes.
No.
Yes,
okay.
I think so. In theory, in a perfect world, the Sixers make the conference finals. Now, we've been saying that, like, I hate to keep doing this. We've been saying this for 3 years now. I mean, on this podcast, we've been saying it since we started this podcast.
Right.
But it's true, like, we don't know what could happen. The Sixers get the 3rd seed. They draw who could be the 6th seed in the East? I don't know. The Pacers. I don't know. Who could be the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference? I don't know. They draw the Pacers.
Hawks.
They draw the Heat in the 2nd round. Oh, conference finals appearance. What are the odds? The least likely year is the year they make the conference finals. That would be the most Sixers thing ever.
True.
So, I don't know. I'm like, it's the status of what this team could be is even more up in the air this year than it was last year, obviously. But
yes,
it still wouldn't shock me if they win like 50-something games, 3rd seed.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a long
I think
season.
that they're capable of doing that.
Yeah.
I think that they're capable of doing that. So, like we've even said in previous years, the concern isn't, this team's not going to make the playoffs. The concern is where they can get in the playoffs.
Exactly.
How far they can get. And as currently constructed, they're not going where we want them to go. But I mean, this team isn't. Come February, we saw it happen with number 25 a few years ago. He got traded on deadline day.
Yeah.
And part of that, they went out and got James Harden because they were staying afloat without Ben Simmons playing.
Yeah.
And this team is more than capable of staying afloat without James Harden. But obviously they're not because they would have traded him by now if they were going to get a star in return. Now, I think the hope is you get a couple pieces that are really going to contribute nicely this year.
Hopefully, yeah.
Now, it's an impossible question to answer is, okay, when James Harden leaves and 2 mystery pieces come in, then what's their ceiling? Like, we don't really know how to answer that because we don't know what those pieces are going to be.
Right.
But the hope is it improves them, because maybe a couple of those bench pieces, maybe you get someone that's going to help you move DeAnthony Melton to his 6th-man position, get a couple of those bench pieces we're concerned about out of the rotation, and get a couple players.
Right.
James Harden still wants to go to the Clippers.
Surprised
I don't know if at this point, we were wanting Paul George. That ain't going to happen.
No.
But, maybe you just get a couple pieces from them. I don't know. And I don't know. We don't know when it's going to happen. But it might be a while.
There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, and nobody has the answers to these questions.
Right. So, all right. I think that's it. That's Media Day Madness here on Planet 76.
That's the title of the episode right there.
Yes, sir. Episode 106. And, season's just over 3 weeks away. And so we got a couple more episodes for sure coming your way before we tip off the season in Milwaukee against Damian Lillard and the Milwaukee Bucks. Yes, that's correct. So we'll see how that goes. And we're looking forward to getting the season started. And you got all that you need here on Planet 76 to be ready for the season when it does come. So be sure to join us on future episodes, and we'll get you ready. We'll see you next time. Peace. If you are a Philadelphia 76ers fan, this is the podcast for you. Planet 76, a weekly podcast covering all things Philadelphia 76ers. We'll see you next time.